not welcoming shit.
Yeah, fuck you.
All right, that actually made it onto the YouTube version. We're starting with that. Welcome to the PARAcast. I'm your host, Tomas the Boss Hernandez, joining you on a late Sunday to make sure you guys get a show. I know you guys don't want to go 2 weeks without a show or a full show. You guys had a show last week, but a full show. Joining me tonight, get ready for this one. Author of the book How to Complain About First World Problems, it's Robert Wyatt.
Fuck you, Tom.
The answer is be an active shooter.
It's been a long weekend.
And his official role model now is P. Diddy, because of the gay stuff. It's Jared Stepp.
Hey, everybody just keeps on talking about getting slimed at going over to P. Diddy's, and I just don't see the problem there.
My favorite thing now is every time I'm like scrolling Instagram, I'm looking at the reels. It's all these flashbacks of people saying how gay P. Diddy was, and we all just ignored him putting his hand on Mike Tyson's thigh and Mike Tyson moving his hand away. Everyone else saying like, no, it's not. Don't go to P. Diddy. P. Diddy's gay. The whole thing with what's his bucket, the comedian Cat Williams, saying like, oh no, this is what he's doing. And it's kind of like the Hannibal Buress thing when he started making fun of Bill Cosby, like how Bill Cosby used to drug girls, and then everyone was like the open secret, and then you go like, oh, this open secret's terrible. Wait, he paid the dad from Family Matters a bunch of money to have sex with him? Like this is like some sexual predator stuff. And so like,
oh shit.
Yeah, I know. It's hard.
All of your heroes turn out to be pedos. What does that say, Tommy?
They weren't my heroes.
Okay. Okay,
yes.
Boomer.
Chris Cornell had the decency to do himself in when he felt bad. Not I never had to go through the whole thing of like I just felt sorry for Chris Cornell. I never had to go through the thing like, oh man, do I have to roll the windows up every time I listen to this song now? But now with P. Diddy, it's officially roll up the windows music. So congratulations, every breath I take. Anyways,
I actually don't know anything that he's sung, or I don't even know one thing from his album. I've never really even heard of the guy until I don't know, a year ago.
You probably know one or two of his songs, just not the name of them. Because I'm in the same boat. Like it's not like I listen to this guy.
Yeah.
But if somebody plays the song, I'm like, oh, that's him.
That's
I don't know.
That's probably
here's
true,
the thing
honestly.
about P. Diddy that everything makes sense. Like everyone that you guys remember in the 90s, I got such terrible bags under my eyes. Everyone remember in the 90s when he had his sidekick Mace, and Mace was with P. Diddy, and they were doing all these songs, and Mace was like a big deal. And then all of a sudden, Mace left and became very religious. And now you think back about it, I was like, oh, I know why Mace left, because that lifestyle, he was tired of going to parties and having P. Diddy pay people payment to have sodomy.
Named after sodomy.
He's a little tired of the sodomy. I would imagine if P. Diddy was already doing all this stuff and then he was like basically writing your ticket to fame, and then what we have to call into question now. We have to call into question is the habits and lifestyle of one Notorious B.I.G. because one Sean P. Diddy Combs, Puff Daddy, was the Notorious B.I.G's sidekick. So just a little food for thought for everybody. Anyways, SLPSA. I went out there, shot it. I think it's kind of a thing. I shot the state match and then shot 2 weekend matches in a row over at SLPSA. All the heat was gone, or most of the heat was gone. And so I went out there and I shot my VP9. Kevin Isaac was kind enough to bring me by an old comp tack holster for a VP9 without a light. The previous week I had the Streamlight on it and I had the brass grip. And every time I fired it, I'd kind of lose the dot underneath the front sight, like it was kind of like returning lower. And so like I took the light off, I shot the last stage, it was going good. Lower. This is the international sign for P. Diddy, no rape. P. Diddy, no rape. And so like I stripped that off and I put it on there. I put it on my boss hanger, put it on my Mach 1 speed belt. And I went out there and I shot the match and like it felt fantastic. Like it just really turned out to be what it is. And so like basically the
not sodomy.
It's a standard plain VP9 with a Steiner MPS on it. And so like it just sat there and it returned I shot with one Robert Moreno, Robert's first ever time at SLPSA as a home club resident. I even told Randy that it was his first match, and so Randy started telling him on the uprange start how to do an uprange start, and Robert was like giving me like the dirty look the entire time because he was just like, "Gosh damn it," you know. And then he pulls off and he starts shooting, and he starts shooting like Robert Moreno should. And then he goes like, "I don't think this is your first match." He's like, "Yeah, I was just bullshitting you. It's not his first match." But anyway, like it was fun. But like I think I finished the match with 130 alphas and 13 Charlies, and most of those Charlies were accumulated on the classifier, which was a 2003 classifier, where you start off with 3 boxes, draw 1 shot to 6 targets in a wide array, reload, go to strong hand, maybe 15 yards away, and then do strong hand. Next stage, draw freestyle. 1 round is all 6 targets, load to weak hand, and then go up there and start shooting weak hand at like 10 yards away, all that jazz. And so it came out all right. I had 6 Charlies out of that, but like I was pleasantly surprised. The kid who came in second to me, was 8 seconds faster than me, but I made up for those 8 seconds in a whole lot of points. And so it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to go out there and shoot and like just do the same steady thing I always do, and then shoot a lot of points. And the one thing I noticed is that the gun just freaking returned right to where I wanted to. For better or for
You
worse,
shoot
for
you
better,
shoot that VP9 really well.
I find it
Oh shit.
what
Oh gee, you shouldn't have said that. Now he's gonna get rid of it.
I I I find
Well,
that
just if anybody's curious, next week Tom's going to be selling the VP9 and all the rest of his HK collection. You don't let Tommy think that he's doing something good with a new gun. Now he's gonna like
now I
have
got
to go and chase perfection somewhere else.
now I got to self-sabotage. Gosh damn it. But I sat there and I was worried you just lost the recording. I was sitting there and shooting this thing, and the one thing I note, like I like a bunch about it is it feels very much kind of like a fatter gripped M&P, like a little bit
Mm.
farther forward trigger, but fatter grip M&P, because the M&P, even with like the large back straps, um, it goes very fat in the back and then goes super narrow in the front. And so once you get past the back strap, like your fingers are basically wrapping around the gun, and so it's very hard to find a support area. But on the VP9, you get to do the side straps as well
Did you
as
take off the brass?
I did take off the brass. Like it
You took
just
off all the
all the
way.
weight, all the weight. You're just shooting the gun stock. Another a
Trim
problem
Tom.
a problem you can have with some of the VP9s and the P30s, as you change the sides panels and the back strap, you can kind of see like that magazine well is very
It looks like it's caving in on itself. What's up with that?
that's the mag tear out. So it pinches
Oh.
in like that, so you can get the bottom of the base plate and strip it out if you needed to.
Oh, I got you. I got you.
But there's a lot of pressure when you push these things back in and then put the pin on it to close it. And so what can happen? It can gently constrict the
Open your mouth,
magazine
Jared.
well. Yeah, Jared only gets turned on when he sees things that can go into something, not when he sees things that you can put into something. But it's
A hole is a hole.
it's it's a freaking laser beam of a gun, and it runs like a champ. I did have one malfunction, same malfunction I had a couple weeks ago, and that was because my own dumbass. Taylor Freelance sends you extra power magazine springs when they give you base plates, and I thought I just had the regular VP9 ones, and so I was cramming the 20-second round into those things, and then it would every time I'd fire, there'd be so much tension on the bottom of the gun after the reload that it would give me like not be able to cycle all the way through.
Ah.
And then I was just like, and I also slipped and gashed my thumb. That's the third time I've cut my finger on the VP9 mag. But it's just because I'm a dumbass, and then I loaded them to 21, and then it ran like a top, and then like I just changed out the springs to put the other ones in, and now it takes 23. So, you know,
You
I
just
mean,
had to do a little bit of a blood sacrifice.
I just had to do a blood sacrifice and then realize, why doesn't this work? And it's just like, oh, it actually is working exactly as intended. You just forgot what setup you had in the gun.
Yeah,
So,
don't mess with German perfection.
no.
I mean, the Fuhrer will be angry.
Mhm.
roll over
They're
in his
normally into
grave.
gas sacrifices, not blood sacrifices. But
Yeah, maybe any
it's
port in a
2024.
storm. I
You
mean,
know what? If it's too bad,
It's 2024.
it's too bad the Ruskies don't export anything that's any good ever. Because they could make a pistol called the Mass Grave, and you could go from there, or the what is it called, the
I think
re-education camp.
those are called spades. They sell shovels.
The shovel is the official weapon, the shovel. Speaking
it's a
about
gulag.
official weapons of boomers, Jared has now joined the club. Jared, talk about your boomer blaster.
Hell yeah. I accidentally bought a Kimber 9mm. We were chatting at work
What
the other day.
you tripped and your credit card swiped on the machine and somehow it fell into your hands?
Pretty much. My boss was talking about how he had this gun and needed to sell, and I asked what it was, and he said, "Oh, it's a Kimber." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Which one?" And he goes, "Oh, the Pro Carry 2." I'm like, "Oh, those are fun. Those are fun guns. Is it 9 or 45?" And he goes, "It's a 9." I'm like, "Ooh, that's a nice setup." So he brought it in the next day and was like, "Look at it. Look at it." And so I looked at it, and it was actually in good condition. It had some scratches on it, on like the aluminum alloy frame, because his ring was scratching it up when he shot. But that actually was the very first gun that I ever wanted to get, because back in like 2010, Kimber was like peak aesthetic. Those Kimber 1911s were about as sexy as you can get. And just like all young men, we get our sexual preferences in those late teens, early 20s, and now we're stuck with them for the rest of our lives. So I've always had a thing for those damn Kimber guns. And so he offered it to me for a pretty good price. I bought it, and I now ordered like a Dawson Magwell and a couple, all that fun stuff. Got some fiber optic sights for it, and now I'm going to probably shoot that over the winter for um fun, because honestly, dude, single stack is an absolute blast, and those commander length full size 1911s are an absolute riot. And so I'm planning on probably shooting that for the next upcoming future. So it'll be fun and it'll be stupid, but it'll be great.
It's too bad you don't have any 9mm for it.
I know. I know. Kevin decided. The funniest part was I didn't even know Kevin was doing that for sure. He just kind of mentioned it, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I could take some. And then he never said. He Kevin went down and bought a large amount of HSL 9mm, and I kind of just offhand said, yeah, I'll take 10,000. He's like, okay, cool. And I never thought anything about it again. Then he just texted me and like, I got your 10,000 rounds. I'm like, oh shit, I
Oh,
gotta get
that's
money.
weird because he only gave me 9,000.
It's
Exactly.
it's one of the funny things where you're like, oh shit, and the first thing you open is the bank app. You're like, oh damn it, I forgot I spent this much money.
So now I got to go over to Robert and get the ammo. But
Eight
yeah,
8,000 because I'm splitting it with Tyler.
it's slowly just
It's slowly
the
getting
numbers are falling, falling, falling. I'm gonna pick it up, and it's gonna be 10
It's-
boxes of 100 each.
It's gonna be a single box of Supervel.
What the hell
Turns out
happened
she
here?
donated to Ukraine.
Tur-
Yeah,
Turns out that inflation, she's a real bitch.
you're right.
It's called friendflation.
So yeah, I bought that gun this week, and then I went down and competed at the Utah Sheriff's Association match, and that was fun because it's a team match. And this year we finally got our top 3 guys to go, and we won that, and we got a giant cup, a giant award for it, which was funny because all the sheriffs want to win it, and so far, sheriff's department has not won it yet in the 5 years that this cup has been getting passed around. The troopers have won it twice. Sandy has won it twice, and then now we've won it once, and hopefully we'll keep that up and we'll keep winning it. And it's a great time because it's the sheriff's cup,
Wait,
and so far a sheriff hasn't gotten it.
how
Well,
many
here
times have you actually competed in this?
3
Okay.
or 4. The hard part is it's a team match, And
Oh,
so
and you
even
can only
though
do so much to drag those worthless ones along.
well, it's a time plus match, not time
Oh,
plus points.
so you
Just
do the time and they give you the plus.
raw ass time. So it don't matter if Jared finishes the whole match in 50 seconds. If my second guy finishes it in 60 or 70 or 80 seconds, and then the third guy finishes it in 100 plus, it doesn't matter how good Jared is. So
Jared
this
just
year,
has to keep getting that much better so that he can drag the dead weight along
They
even
they
longer.
really are the plus. They put the plus in time plus. You know.
no, no, the guys I went down with this year, it was good. We did a couple training days for the shooting team where I was spinning them up on trying to actually shoot on the move well, and did some good training for them. And
Awesome.
both the other guys did really really well, and so they killed it. And we brought honor to our family, and we were able to go down and accept the giant award in front of all the sheriffs. And we were the only police officers there. Everyone else was, oh, it's deputy this, deputy this, deputy this. And then we're like, okay. And then the police officers, they won the award. And we're like,
What does
eat
that
a
even
dick.
mean? Deputy? What does that mean?
Well, so the sheriff's departments
Okay.
are deputies, while police officers and police departments are officers. And so if you see a guy wandering around in khaki and green, he most likely is a sheriff's deputy. And if you call
Okay.
him officer, he might even correct you and be like, I'm not an officer, I'm a deputy.
It's the same thing with
There's
Is it
Marines and
different, it's
soldiers.
bitter.
Is it just being pedantic or I
Yes.
mean, okay. Okay.
Technically, it is a different job because it's a county-wide position versus a city position. But
Okay.
most of the time, especially here in Utah, the sheriff's deputies, honestly, most of the deputies are in jails
They're
because
in
that's where
jail?
they work. Yeah,
Oh,
they work in the jail.
oh, okay. It took me a second there to catch that one up.
They have to keep rehiring because of their
Wait a
activities on the
damn
clock.
minute.
But it all depends because some areas, more the rural areas of
Mhm.
Utah, they only have deputies out there, and those deputies are cops, and they'll get in pursuits, they'll go on domestics, they'll do all sorts of stuff. Whereas other areas, there are no deputies that are out on the road, and the only deputies there are the ones in the jail. And so it's kind of weird the
That's
way
cool.
Utah does it.
I never knew any of that. I honestly,
Mhm.
I look at a cop and I'm like, a cop's a cop's a cop. I didn't know that there's. I mean, I sheriff. I understand the terminology, but I didn't know that there was
For the most
distinctions.
part,
You know,
it's like Asians. There are there are different levels of Asians. You have the Japanese
the
up
math
here, and
Asians, the science
yeah,
Asians.
exactly. It's Taiwan's next, and maybe Korea. South Korea is probably pretty good. Maybe Philippines. Then you start fighting between Vietnam and all the other countries. It's the same thing with cops. You have actual police officers are at the top. Then you can maybe have the road deputies. Then you can maybe have the general deputies. Then you have bailiffs. Then you have corrections officers.
And then
Then you have
CHP
fish cops.
troopers.
And then troopers are on the bottom
And
with
then you
mall
have the
cops.
UTA transit cops.
Yeah, yeah. You have the train cops. You have the bus cops. You have all sorts. There are cops for everything.
And then the hospital cop who just hangs around at the hospital with the security guard. I saw one of those
Dude,
last night.
that is such a terrible job. Like they contract that out to us where we'll go and we'll actually work at the hospital, and they're like, "We need more people to come work at St. Mark's. Come work for us." And I'm like, "No, because if you have to do something at a hospital, it's fighting a crazy person who's bleeding, and you're just like,
And they're already
that doesn't
naked.
sound fun."
They're already
Yeah.
naked. They're peeing everywhere. It's not anything good. What gun did you shoot in the sheriff's bowl of light?
I shot my tactical steel custom. I've been shooting that. I'm going to be shooting that competitively a lot more now. I got rid of the Voodoo. The Voodoo is a great little gun and I loved it, but I like that tactical steel custom more. And I know I could sell the Voodoo while I don't really want to sell the tactical steel because that's the gun I made and I like that gun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to keep that. I sold the Voodoo and I'm probably going to be just competing with the tac steel gun. And it shot like a champ, ran like an absolute maniac. So it's a
Do you,
great gun.
Do you want to hear something funny? It's tangentially related to this voodoo. I'm walking around. I'm going to the Ultra Outlet store out in Lehigh, and I'm walking in there, and I get this feeling. I'm like, there's somebody I know who's right by me, and then I walk for like another 15, 20 seconds, and then who do I see? Leo de Leon, and I'm like, hey, Leo. It's just one of the weirdest things.
What are you doing here?
What are you doing? Why do you have a family? Look at
The
you and
fun-
your
I heard
family.
I've been talking to Leo. It sounds like he's wanting to start. He wants to start a little training thing of his own, and I believe he's going to be doing a training class coming up soon. So if you're interested in that, you guys should reach out to him. Leo's a very, very good shooter. He's very, very good at shooting on the move and shooting in between, like engaging lots of targets on the move. He's very good at that. So if you want to get better at that, I'd highly recommend message him on Facebook or Instagram. I don't know what he has. I know he has a YouTube.
Yep. You'll
Yeah,
find him.
Leo's good people. He's actually taught a lot of people. I mean, just throughout our local community. He's a great instructor.
He's always done classes and stuff, and he'll do
Mhm.
he'll do a class like once a year. But I believe he's actually wanting to start doing like classes.
Yeah.
And so if that's true, um,
No, I
think
think
that's
it
gonna be
is.
great.
I think it is actually.
I think that'll be
Yeah.
great.
That would be awesome. All right, well, let's get to the meat of this. There's a little place called St. George, and this place had a little match called Red Rock Rumble. And if you guys have been following Robert Wyatt, you probably know where this is going to go down. You know, when Robert's out of town and he sends a picture of a toaster going into a bathtub or talking about it, you know, you just
It
wait
was
to
a
tune in.
it was a great match for somebody. Oh shit.
For those audio listeners, Robert is sobbing and there are tears coming down his face. He
Let's
has a black eye
You know-
and he's bleeding.
let's
You
talk
know what's
about your
really funny
match.
is my I posted that video and I didn't think anything of it and I never hardly ever read the comments. But I read them initially. I read a couple of them initially and it was funny, but then I left it alone and I called my wife up later. It was a day later. Talking about something. She's like, have you been on your Instagram? And I'm like, no. She's like, oh, what? Well, I don't want to ruin it for you. And I'm like, okay, well that's ominous. I get back on there and I go into the comments. My mother-in-law, she has written this thing. She's something like, this concerns me as a medical professional. She calls up Andrea and she's like telling her that like I'm like suicidal, and Andrea's having to explain to my mother-in-law. I love my mother-in-law, I truly do. She's such awesome people, but she's like, anything you see from Robert online, he doesn't mean it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever believe anything he puts on there. It's all fake news.
Also,
She was not impressed.
do you know where to get an extension cord? Robert's been asking me for one.
He drops it and it comes out of the wall right before it hits the water.
God damn it! I can't even do this right.
No,
Okay,
he walks out thinking that he's already an apparition and he's already dead. He goes, "Now I will continue my life." He just starts walking around naked. I'm dead. I'm a specter. I'm a ghost.
Okay, so I was going to follow that one up last night. I found an extension cord, and I was I was gonna actually take that extension cord and like tie it into kind of a noose and then hang it on the shower curtain. But I thought that might be just a bit of a bridge too far.
Well, everyone will know that that's a joke because obviously a shower curtain cannot handle that much
Exactly.
weight. Duh, people.
Obviously, I mean, this thing does not have the structural load-bearing capabilities to withstand the force of a 200-pound guy. It just doesn't have it.
Meanwhile, the CIA is like, that's a good idea. I'm going to write that down.
Take care for the next Trump shooter.
For a home architect, you know, the one thing that should just scare anybody if they want like a suspended, like a reinforced meat hook above the bathtub, it like, you know, for things. Let's talk about your match performance, Robert. How'd the match go for you as far as showing up and shooting the damn thing?
Well, I shot it. I mean, no, it was so it was definitely a match. So I decided I was going to staff. I decided I was going to staff that match, and so I drove down there on Wednesday, and Thursday morning I go to um, I go to my stage with the squad, and the match director comes up, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, I got an opportunity for you." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, this other squad only has 2 ROs, and they really need some help." And I'm like, "Which squad is it?" And he tells me the number, and I was like, "Dan, I got off that squad because I can't stand the guy that's on it." And he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can you do it anyway?" And I'm like, and then Dan looks at me with these puppy dog eyes, and he says, "I could find somebody else, but I did it
And
because I'm dumb."
And Robert learned that day
and he's
about
not
boundaries.
and he's not going to complain about it. He's got to accept it full force and not complain about it.
I told this man that he could kick me in the balls, and now I'm mad afterwards because I threw up. And I'm not happy
And
about it.
I told P Diddy I would do it for $10,000, but I found out afterwards it was worth at least 12.
Yeah. He paid this other guy 15.
Bastard, cheap son of a bitch. No, it was fun. I ended up switching over and I went to the squad, which was great in a way because there was actually somebody on that squad that I really wanted to hang out. It was Christina Baker, and I've shot a bunch of matches with her back east, and every time I travel to matches, she's inevitably always there. And so when I earlier in the week I had looked at the squad list and I saw the person had gotten onto the squad, and I'm like, fuck that noise. And I was like, there is no amount of love I have for Christina Baker to make me want to stay on this squad. And so I pieced out of that one, which was sad, but then I got back on. And so we got to shoot together, and she's super fun to shoot with. And I can't remember how you say his last name. It's Anthony Zabonik. He was there. They're both PCC shooters, and they're absolutely a ton of fun to hang out with. And so I mean, there's a lot of silver linings to shooting on the squad, but we shot the match Thursday, Friday. Thursday was a long day. We were on the range from what 7 a.m. until 5:30.
Wow.
It was a painfully long day, and I the match director came by and he's like, "Hey, you guys need to speed it up." And I thought we were going fast. I really did. I thought we were doing okay on our time, but I mean, when I found out that the other squads had finished, the last squad had finished at I think it was like 3 o'clock, and we were still shooting. I'm like, oh, jeez, we screwed up. And so that was
Was
So
it a
why do you
match
think
a
that
match flow
was?
thing, or was it a staffing thing on your stage?
Well, I think it was a handful of things. I mean, anytime you shoot with the staff, inevitably there's going to be things that crop up, questions that arise that you don't expect, little tweaks that have to be figured out. Now, one of the neat things that Dan and Glenn and the guys down at Sups do that is really forward thinking, and you're starting to see it with a lot of the good match directors, is they'll actually run basically a pre-match. So you have your staff match, and then they'll have a pre-match. And that pre-match, the whole point of that is like it's a small select group of people will go through and they'll shoot the match, um, basically trying to debug the match.
Yeah.
And they at that point they've volunteered in their match. They know they're getting basically boned because it's just going to take a lot of effort to have to stop, fix, and that's just the way it goes. And in the process of that, you usually are able to resolve most of the issues that would crop up in at the staff match, and then the staff match will be your basically your fire stop for breaking whatever needs to be broken, so that by the time the regular match actually hits, most of it has pretty much ironed out. It's never ever going to be perfect, But I think what they do at SUPS is really, really good, and I like the way that they think about that of just trying to resolve that. And so that's a real positive thing. But when we shot it, we were slow. I mean, in hindsight, we changed a bunch of the things that we did going into on Friday, but we had one stage where we showed up to it, and there was a position where you started, and if you took basically 2 steps to kind of like uprange to the left, you could see a target. It was just the edge of a target hiding behind a wall, so that if you took 2 shots at it, you could hit 2 shots in the D zone, but it would allow you to then avoid running all the way down to the end and shooting it from around the corner.
Mhm.
And so it was a big time save.
Mm.
But in the process of doing that, like, everybody looks at it, and the first shooter shoots it, and we're like, oh yeah, that's a damn fine idea. But the wind, the breeze is doing breezy things, and there's this one shooter who obviously shall not be named. He starts complaining because the wind is blowing, and because the wind is blowing, it's going to make it so that he can't see the target. And it's like, and he's like complaining about like competitive equity, and it's like, well, okay, number one, competitive equity doesn't apply to acts of God, because if it starts raining and they bag the targets, guess what?
You're still
Competitive
shooting.
equity just went out the effing window. So shut it.
Yeah.
But he was pretty ripped, and so he goes and gets a hold of the range master, and the range master politely tells him to pound sand. Well, that didn't work, so he then goes and finds the match director, and the match director comes and looks at it, and by then, my patience had gone from probably about 20% to now it was like coasting on fumes. And so at that point, I was just mad. And
0 patience. Now we're negative patience. We're anger patience now.
pretty much. And he looks at it, and I bring it up. I was like, well, how does competitive equity apply? And he leaves. But then later on, the match director and the range master come back, and they're looking at the stage, and like, okay, we're just going to reshoot it. And I'm like, why?
Oh.
And they're like, well, this is how it was never intended to be able to see from this, and so we're gonna move it to be where it's supposed to be, and it's going to cause everybody to basically have to reshoot it. The early staff
The
is going to have to
entire staff.
Yeah.
the entire staff's going to have to come back and reshoot it. And okay, and I told him this, and I absolutely believe it. He's correct. If they had left it, that wall would have been destroyed. It absolutely would have. And so they're solving a problem in the staff match. Things that pop up, it's something that we can solve. Is it inconvenient? Yes, the staff is going to have to come back and reshoot it, and I understand that. But I told him straight up, I was like, yeah, you know what? I actually agree with you. This actually needs to happen. But right now, I don't want you to do it. And the only reason I don't want you to do it is because I don't want that asshole to win, and I'm just being petulant. That's how I felt
Anger.
about the match.
Anger, Robert.
And so
Well,
it was interesting.
dude,
There are-
that's why, like, staffing matches, and I've never actually staffed a match that wasn't a match I was involved in running.
Mhm.
But it just doesn't seem like something I'd be interested in doing, because staffing is work. Staffing is not like fun most of the time, especially if you have whiners showing up on these level 2, level
Well,
3 USPSA matches, and then it just gets like, it's not fun anymore.
if
And
you
if it's
have
not fun, then I don't want to do it.
if you
Well,
have
it
match
can
directors
be.
and
It can
range
actually be a
masters,
lot of fun.
if you have match directors and range masters that have your back on a lot of stuff, it can be fun. And like
Mhm.
that tell the people that kind of do these things to like pound sand. It's kind of like the philosophy that we kind of have here. It's like, if we shoot a mic, we don't even want to look at it. You don't have to call our names. We don't have to get out the thing. Like, if it's close enough and you want to put a freaking card on it, fine. But it's like we're trying to be the antithesis of these people who are looking for every little break that goes along. And staffing matches are fine, like that, as long as you tell them no, and then the range master and the match director basically look at them and go like, yeah, no, no dice, dude, knock it off.
Well, well, and in this situation, I mean, that's just one example, and that's like me personally. The they tried to do something new this year, and where they actually allowed early competitors to shoot on the early squad. When you're staffing a match, in a lot of cases, it can the staff squad. I actually like up at Utah State. I really enjoy the way I do it, and so like we shoot all day Friday, and I'll let normie like paid competitors. I'll let some paid competitors on my squad. Like basically, I kind of pre-vet them just to see if I want to deal with them or not. And that sounds really weird, but if I kind of know who's going to be on that squad, I can be like, okay, yeah, these guys are pretty chill, and they're not going to slow the thing down. It's going to be a fun match. But I think subs they tried this new thing, and I think by and large it's a good idea.
So
What
like using staff day as like an overflow day?
essentially, yeah. And I think that can work. I think if one of the challenges that they ran into here, which is something to kind of take back and look at, is um, we had 16 people on our squad, and there was only 3 ROs, and so that was rough from the perspective of it just felt like, because usually if you staff, you understand you're not going to get the benefit of squatting with a good shoot, like a Leo de Leon kind of shooter, like real high level people. You just don't normally get that. But you accept that, and that's totally fine because staff day is usually a little bit more lighthearted. It's kind of fun, at least the way I do it. It's really enjoyable. What happened in this situation is they just didn't have enough staff um, kind of pushed into the squads,
Well,
and so the three ROs were functionally just working the whole time. And I think if you were to do it again, the way to look at it would be like, half competitor, half ROs,
mhm.
to kind of divide that workload, because with only three being on there, you never stop working. You're
Yep.
just
Right,
working
because
constantly.
And then
it's
you
a
have
level 2 or a level 3, so that means that the RO, a certified RO, has to have the pad and the timer for the entirety of the time. It can't just be like, oh, hey, Jared, you know how this works? Can you run people? No, because I'm not blessed by
I'm
Yi
not a
Men
RO, and well, I'm not blessed,
or Troy, I guess.
and even bigger than that, I'm actually a competitor.
Hmm.
And
yep.
um, I never thought about this. So Christina and Anthony and
Yeah,
I, we went out.
that would
Uh,
suck.
yeah, we went out after the match was over on Friday to a restaurant. We were talking, and I feel bad because I tend to talk a lot, which is what I do. But we ended up closing the place down, which I think was hilarious. And but we actually asked Christina to run the score pad for a bit, not realizing that a she wasn't staff, because like Christina's worked matches all over the country, and she's certified. She knows what she's doing. She's smart and incredibly capable CRO. She could do it. But
But she's a paying competitor.
she's a competitor, and competitors deserve to get all the benefit of being a competitor as much as
Mm.
you can. Even if you're shooting on the early squad, you want to give them as good of an opportunity as they could hopefully get with the normal match. And so like the first day we asked her, and she wasn't super chill with it. I think she did it for a little bit before we kind of realized, oh, this is a problem. And we took it back. We messed up on the first day, and it literally took us the entire day to realize how bad we had messed up, the three of us as the ROs, because the second day we came back and we made a whole bunch of changes, and everything ran a whole lot smoother. But that's kind of the nature of any major match. Anytime you do something new, you're going to try something, and you're going to be like, okay, well, here's what worked, here's what didn't work, and let's see if we can make it better going into the future. It's just like when I was telling Dan, I was like, when we, like, as competitors, we show up to a major match, and we're going to go through and we're going to shoot 18 stages, and you know 10 of the stages went really great, and 3 of the stages went so-so, and 5 of the stages were just complete dumpster fire crap. But we're going to take all that information and we're going to learn from it, and we're going to move forward. And so we understand that's just what we do as competitors. But for some reason, when we go to a big major match and everything, and you'll go through and you'll shoot that entire match, and there'll be a bunch of good stuff, a bunch of not so good stuff, and there's some stuff that's just garbage. We have a tendency to not give the same grace that we would give ourselves for our performance to the match as a whole, not understanding that every single match that you ever do as a match director, it's constantly building on the lessons and teachings that you took. Some of these really hard learned things of like, oh shit, I really screwed that up. And then you get that, and then you move that into the next match, and you get better and better and better as you do it. And along
But
the way, you're trying to do better, but you
well,
do the
and
best you can.
major matches are so much better run than they used to be, and they have a lot more. Like there's a lot of stuff that's become easier over time and lessons learned, and now you ran into like a whole new lesson, which
Hmm.
was the whole beta test with three ROs and another what was it
15 or
15
what,
or
13
13
stat or paid
13
Ew.
competitors.
shooters.
Yeah,
And
that's not fun.
No, it was a bit suboptimal, but I mean it's good because I've been so last year I just drove down and I worked the Red Rock Rumble. And then earlier this year, I went and did the Barry Still Open, and then I just obviously just did this one. And what's been really, and so I kind of gave that analogy because I have now seen how much in just three major matches that Dan and Glenn and all the guys down at SUPS has just taken everything they've learned from each one of those matches and just made it better and better and better. And that's exactly what you want. I mean, you
Yeah.
always want that because I mean, in fact, like this year or at this match, they actually had forward falling poppers. If anybody shot Barry's red the oh darn it, the
Steel
Steel
Open.
Open, it was a nightmare of a match because you had the winds that crept up and it knocked every single one of the poppers over to the point where you had Coop over there and he would run over there and he would tighten or loosen up the big poppers, and then he'd run back and we'd quickly be like, okay, make ready, go, 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 go. And they'd shoot it, thing would go down, and then Coop would run back over, adjust it for the wind
Yep.
again, just to keep trying to
Jesus.
get these. It was
Well,
terrible.
in the old days too, when it would rain a lot, the spikes wouldn't stay down, and
Yeah.
so what would happen is you would constantly have um, poppers that were coming out of
Well,
calibration
I
or just not
like
be able to do anything.
I
Yeah.
like how they use their poppers, how they actually will have the poppers mounted on 2x4s, and then the 2x4s are what are actually touching the ground, and so that keeps a little bit more level, distributes the force out a little bit better into a wider area. But I've always liked how Subs has done that.
Yeah, and what they did this year is or for this match they took all the hard-earned lessons from the Steel Open, and they actually went and talked to MGM, and MGM's like, oh yeah, we actually have this device where if you can now flip your large poppers around, install this thing, and it essentially becomes a forward falling
Yep.
popper now. And so one of the biggest challenges that we had at Barry's Steel Open has now been largely fixed at this match. And so that's been a really good thing. I worked a stage that had it was two stages in one bay because they have such huge bays that they can get away with it. And one of the lessons that we learned with that one is match flow. Match flow. I always say this. I mean, it's become. I've said it so many times from Jared, but I mean, match flow is the god that you sacrifice everything else unto, and it is really, really true. And so you take all that information because I never ever stopped running shooters like the entire day or the entire match.
Yeah,
Like
and that's
that,
just tiring.
it wears you out. But
Does
and
she
it's
have the
like, well,
backup on you too?
oh yeah, yeah, it got bad at one point where I was where I had a squad that was just finishing their walkthrough when the next entire squad rolled up.
Oh, geez.
Uh-huh. That
And
one,
how big were the squads? Like 15?
15, 16
So you're
people.
32 men
Yeah.
deep on a 5 minute walkthrough, and then it's not getting any better.
No,
Yeah.
it just kept getting worse. And but there again, see, like we had that happen in the first 8, but then in talking about it in between the days, it's like, okay, well, what can we do to work on to solve this problem? Okay, well, this bay that's feeding us, we can tell them to hold their shooters a little bit longer. And then what's feeding them is the Barry's pavilion. We can tell them to hold their shooters a little bit longer. And you know, it's so much of those little things that you just you kind of have to figure out and learn. And in some cases you learn because you're doing them. But by and large, I mean, I actually really enjoyed the stages for the most part. I think they were very creatively done. The thing that was so cool about the match was it kind of had this Ipsy flair of short courses, medium courses, long courses, and there was a 36 round course that arguably could have been a national. You take away what 4 of the shots. That thing's a national contention stage.
Yeah.
It was a great stage. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. Really had you thinking. The the stage I worked, except for the little speed shoot, which is pretty much, well, hell, dude, even the speed shoot, which was you hit 2 poppers and then a max trap opens up and you have 3 IPSICs, 2 of which are disappearing targets, and then the top one wasn't. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to only be shot one way. Hell no. I saw so many people shoot that so many different flipping ways, and everybody's like, this is the only way to shoot this. How dare you shoot it any other way? But everybody had a plan. Some people were like, well, I'm only going to shoot the poppers and the visible at rest one. Other people are like, they shoot them both, and then they try and run the tree, and then shooting the no shoot and stuff like that. It was really clever for
So
something
really,
that's there's
really,
nothing there, but they just really did something
if
with
you
it.
didn't have two stages on a single bay that you're running, this would have gone a lot better.
Oh yeah. Oh, for
I've
sure.
I've never seen a 2 stage in one bay
Oh
really
well.
go well. I've never seen that happen. And I know it's possible because I know they do it at, like, like you were talking about, IPSC does it a lot, and there are some larger matches that do that. But just from my personal experience, I have never seen a 2 stage one bay ever go well.
Well, the other thing too is like with speed
Yeah.
shoots, I remember like when you have a speed shoot too, like maybe it's a 9 shot array or a 12 shot array from a single position, and especially if it's sequence dependent, the make readies instantly become 3 times longer because
Right.
guys are going to run through
Hmm.
that in their head
Hmm.
because, oh, if I mess up or don't hit a spot or forget what I'm doing, I'm going to lose like 40 points because they're just instantly going to disappear for me. And so, like, I've never seen a speed shoot go where everyone's just like, fire it up, Chuck. And then, of course, speed shoots are generally activator heavy. And then, so the setup takes a little bit longer. So, like, you might look at it, oh, it's a 9 shot stage. But then it's literally you
This
catch up
one
on the stage basically by the make ready and the setup.
This one did well because the speed shoot was first, and how we ran it was they would shoot the speed shoot, and then while that is being scored, I took them up to the 3rd stage and had them shoot that. And if there was anything weird or hinky or something like that with the, like, no shoots or weirdness like that, then obviously, we'd leave it open for them. Otherwise, it's like you get yourself a delegate, they're going to look at it, and we're going to score this thing. And that's how you should always do your activators, putting your activators and crap up front so that they can be being reset
Right.
while you've got your junk in the back. I mean, Jared taught me that, and it makes perfect sense. And so it's I really enjoyed kind of that
They
aspect of it. I was By the time the match was over, though, I was certainly done.
Toast.
they had that what was it, a 575 par time stage?
Oh yeah, the 475, I think what it was, or something like that.
Oh, how'd guys do on that? Did they get it?
I heard somebody talking out of the corner of my ear, kind of thing, that they had cleaned it.
But did anybody in your squad when you guys went through? Did you guys get it at all, or
No, no.
not even close?
Uh, I don't remember tremendously.
I was just curious because that was one of the stages because the sheriff shoot that I went to
Yeah.
was Red Rock Rumble.
Okay.
They just used like 6 of the stages from Red Rock and just had us shoot those
Okay.
because the guys who run it have zero idea what they're doing. Like they've never even shot a match.
Sure.
But they have the guys at SUPS offered to just say, hey, we're running a match right then. We'll build you everything and we'll just pick 6 stages and have you guys shoot those 6 stages.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's nice and easy for them because the Sheriff's Association doesn't have to do literally anything and SUPS doesn't charge them any money.
And you don't get dog shit stages.
Yeah, and you don't get dog shit stages. It was a little weird because they had 2 stages that were very small, and I'm like, you're gonna have a 6-stage match, and you're gonna have one be a 5-second stage and one be like a 8-second stage, and I thought that was a little strange. But
Did you shoot in the upper bays or the lower bays?
dude, we did it all over. We did like 1 in one row, 2 in the next row, 3 in the next row, and then 1 in the last row. They had us
Wild.
shooting all over the place, and so it was actually really funny because the guys were wandering around like, I don't know where the next bay is. Where's the next stage?
I've been there now 3 times, and I still can't remember where anything is there. I mean, unfortunately, they have it all. They have it all. Like
I did
put signs and junk up, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm not.
I did poke Glenn because I'm like, Glenn, I heard we're getting nationals here. Is that true? And he goes, I don't know. Maybe, man. We'll see. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
So-
I hope. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe
you-
maybe we'll get lucky.
You had gun problems, Robert. Did the gun at least run?
Yeah. Actually,
Nope.
the gun ran 100%. Never had
No
never had
magazine
issue in the
issues?
world. Not one bit. No.
You
I,
beat them out of that one. You slapped that little bitch and made sure it started listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good for you.
No, I went back and I actually so I did a couple things. I went through and I made sure that all of my followers were just drop in with no grab, no nothing.
Yeah.
And I actually shortened my bullet length by what was it, from 1.145 to 1.135, because at the overall length, they weren't touching the edges of the magazine tube or anything like that, but they were close enough that I was like, I wonder if this is just, stacking problems. It's just, I'm guessing.
Yep.
And in the process, it seemed to work out. I had no issues at all at any time during the match. So, I mean, that's nice.
Yep.
But
That makes you feel good.
Oh, it really does. And so I'm excited. I'm excited about SUPS. I'm looking forward to this match again next year. I think it's gonna be a good match. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they learned on it. Man, I had like really great stage staff. So we had Stockton and Robert, who were the ROs on the thing, and Stockton.
Aren't you, Robert?
Yeah, Robert Fletcher, Robert Wyatt.
Oh, okay.
I was talking about myself.
Yeah, third person, Robert. Did great job.
Yeah. No, but Stockton, he's a newer shooter, I guess. And but man, that dude, I could not have done that stage. Like I could not have done those 2 stages without him. And that was probably like the unsung hero of the match, because he was able to keep an eye on Robert Fletcher, who was doing the reset scoring on the max trap stage, and then immediately get over to stage 3 to help score all that. And it was, gosh dang it, man, that was just the best. That was the best of the whole thing of that match. He worked his fanny off.
Awesome.
And it sometimes, I mean, having the right staff just make all the difference, and that's absolutely what I was lucked into, and so that was cool.
Well, if you have the right staff, what you really need is the right belt. Head on over to Dominate Defense. Get the best belt in the industry, the Mach 1 Speed Belt, their concealment belts, or head over to American Operator Guild. Get their concealment gear. Check out all that stuff. Use promo code PARA10. Save 10% off. Also, check out Rune Tactical. Get a +1 follower and mag springs for your gun, so that you can attack that 24-round stage with 24 rounds, or even better, that 21-round stage with 24 rounds, or 25 if you're lucky. and save yourself that reload and just keep on sprinting to the next array. So check them out. Use the same promo code PARA10 and save 10% off. And also check out W74 Guide Rods. Our friend Kevin Isaac. Plus up that gun, plus up that light with tungsten batteries or a tungsten guide rod.
Unless it's German.
Unless it's German. Unless you're Tommy and you just can't freaking shoot a heavy gun that weighs over 35 ounces. So do all that stuff and use promo code PARA10 and save 10% off those fine products over there. Telegram, messaging app, service. If you're tired of getting spam, we found out there's a setting that makes it so people can't add you to their accounts. You can do that. Also, it's just a messaging app. Nothing pops up that you don't want to. And just search PARAcast and you'll find us, and then you can chat along with us.
Let's see. From Ron Davison. Is having a strong trigger finger necessary for splitting the trigger rapidly? If so, what do you suggest to strengthen it?
I don't think well, obviously you have to have a certain level of strength or endurance on it to kind of keep going. But I think
Ron's too old. He didn't grow up playing Call of Duty, so
well, that's like thumb strength or like the one thing like strength. Sometimes strength isn't the problem. Like the problem is with that is like rhythm, and it's hard to press on something in a rhythm with exact timing in between or keep a cadence with it.
We're talking about guns, right?
Yeah, that's the hard thing
okay.
about pressing a trigger. It's applying this, doing the same thing robotically as quickly as you can. Jared?
The best thing that's helped me, I think, and the reason why I think I can shoot very fast and shoot split really fast is the fact that I played the saxophone in high school. And I think that actually helped quite a bit doing music and piano and saxophone, because yes, I am half Asian, so I was forced to do the piano. But I honestly think that helped quite a bit because I can do cadence stuff incredibly easily because that wasn't hard.
That.
Yeah, well, I got very good at that as a kid, just playing fingering alto saxophone. It's really easy to just pull one trigger a whole lot when you were doing everything, and then on top of that, the tongue movement, and on top of that, everything. Like it's playing 1 30-second notes for different notes every single time is a very unique and difficult skill, whereas splitting at 0.15 I don't even think is hard anymore. And that's the only explanation that I've been able to come up with it. I don't think it has anything to do with finger strength. I think it's just getting the practice and getting the reps in and getting that work and practice in at the cadence is really what can help you get better at getting the rhythm of your gun down. And that's what a lot of it for me is, because I'll shoot the gun a handful of times, then I get the rhythm of it, and then I'm like, right, okay, and then I shoot and have fun.
So basically, Shooter's Connection is now going to start selling saxophone trigger speed improvement kits.
There you go. Jazz sax.
Just get a metronome, crank it up to like 600 beats a minute or whatever, and then keep pace with that thing.
From our good friend Alex Wendt, if you knew you were going to have a mountain lion encounter, what handgun that you currently own would you pick to have with you? Well, I'm not a gun guy, so it'd probably just be my Shadow 2.
With the mountain lion, man, there's Glock 19 would be fine for any sort of 9mm would be fine to stick. But like if you had like mountain lions aren't terribly big, and you're gonna want to shoot them a lot, and so like I don't know, a 22. A Ruger 22 Charger, 1022 Charger, just zip that thing out, zip, 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 zip. That would be very helpful.
A bunch of so one of the developments that I do a lot of homes in, they often enough they will have mountain lion come into the development, into the property, and they've not an insignificant amount. They've shot them with a pistol, just mostly to get them off and stuff like that, because they'll go after people's little dogs and stuff like
dogs and
like
cats.
that. And I mean, yeah, I mean they'll eventually they'll actually have a hunter trapper dude or something come in and take care of them. But
A Robert Muldoon.
I don't know who that is, but sounds
Shoota! Shoota! Jurassic Park.
The guy who says clever girl in Jurassic Park.
Oh, okay, okay,
With the Spaz 12.
yeah. So I mean, they'll. I guess if you can shoot it, it probably would be angry. Let's see what else.
Yeah. I
Oh,
just
here,
say Glock 17 with a light. I don't
yeah.
know.
I mean, mountain lions by their nature, they generally are pretty skittish animals. So you give them enough leeway, they're gonna
Yeah.
stay away from you.
Put a laser pointer down. Maybe they'll just chase the laser and run off.
just carry with you a big ball of yarn.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Throw it. Very effective.
I thought you just carry around a middle-aged woman to take him home. They can sense that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once they get over 30, blonde's derangement syndrome takes over. From Dirk Hopkins, what do you do when the old guard does not want to step down? Some officers have not shot a match in over a year. The rest usually shoot every 2 to 3 months. If you run against them in an open election, you get judged as a bad guy. How do you get them out without being seen as a jerk? This sounds like a very specific question.
Murder.
What do you do in
No. Honestly, the best thing would just be this sounds terrible, but if those positions are elected positions, then you form a posse and you make a group and say, hey guys, we want to change XYZ at the club. I think we should change XYZ at the club. I'm going to run for this position so I can change XYZ at the club. And it's not a personal thing. It's just saying, I think we should take the club left or right. You think we should keep the club going straight. I want to change things. So let's see what the club wants. Because that's really what it comes down to is, well, what do the shooters in the club want? The person at the top doesn't necessarily represent the best interest of the shooters always.
Or maybe it's just maybe it's just the job that they're doing is fine. It's just the time thing.
Right.
They're not able to be there.
And a lot of it, especially in my world in Copland, we have a lot of really good guys who are sticking around, and they were fantastic. They were wonderful at their job 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. But unfortunately, that was 30 years ago. And now they perhaps don't have the faculties to do the same good job or the same level. And so you're like, dude, like I know this is your baby and I know you don't want to move on. And I know that leaving here is your life. And so why would you leave? Because it's giving up a portion of your life because you've worked on this for so long. But at the same time, you have to pass on the torch at some point. Otherwise, you either quit while you're a hero or you live long enough to become the villain that everybody hates. So you got to choose how on your exit path.
One of the things that in my office, what I always try to impress upon all the new guys and this is very much a part of our culture at this point, is that, and I will tell them, my single biggest goal for you is to replace me. Because if you get to the point where if you get to where I'm at, then that means I can go do something else. And my job is always to teach my replacement. And your job should always be to teach your replacement because that means that they're growing. And it also means that you can now find something else that you can do. And I think one of the biggest challenges that you have in any organization is you have exactly what Jared's talking about. That you have a culture of, this is the way we've been doing it for, 30 years. And by gosh, we're just going to keep doing it that way. And it's not to say that all new ideas have to be
revolutionary
and
changed.
or even good.
Or even good. I mean, sometimes, it is an observable truth that there are things that we have done for a long time because they just do work. I mean, my industry, construction by its very nature, is very conservative. Architecture is very, very liberal, if you want to use those terms. We're always pushing the boundaries of what can be done. But the construction aspect is conservative in that people will die if we screw this up badly. And so there's always that kind of that conversations that had. But any organization should always be looking for a way to create the culture where the existing officers or leadership, they're constantly training their replacement. And if they're not training their replacement, then what you need to be doing is asking the question why. Because
Yep.
if and this is a problem inside of USPSA as a general statement, but it's also true in life. If somebody if somebody stops being the match director, if Jared says, okay, fuck it, I'm never going to do the UPOA matches, not the UPOA, but you know what I'm saying. If I'm never going to do these law enforcement matches
I'm
anymore,
not going to do the UPOA matches ever again. And guess what? It died. Fuck you.
Yeah, but if I'm never going to be like the UTLE matches ever again, well then, in a very realistic sense, that dies because all of that really good institutional knowledge that Jared has learned over time, it's the same as what's happening down at SUPS. All this really great information, it dies with you. And if your organization isn't doing that, then you need to start creating a culture where it becomes an expectation that we're training the people to replace us, and we create an expectation that we will be replaced. And that's what you have to do. You have to go to your membership and say, this is my idea. This is why I believe my idea is good. And then in a very kind of like inclusive way, have the existing leadership defend why their idea, the way that they're doing things currently is superior to what your proposal is. Because the reality is they're probably doing a lot of really good things that is actually working. And we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater just because we want change. I mean, we had change for the last 4 years, and that's been shit for a lot of people.
Yep. No, and it's like the birth rate or replacement rate. Like if you have a non-existent replacement rate, that means that your organization is not growing or shifting or changing or whatever, and it's just about to die. It's what it
Yeah.
is. You have to have that because you're just one accident away or one bad match away for something like that or a different interest that pops up in your life from not fulfilling what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
So
and it's hard. It really is. It's always hard because you spend so much time trying to make things better that when you finally get them better, you just want to be like, cool, let's keep it this way.
stand and
And
observe the greatness of what we've achieved.
sort of, yeah. And I do get that. I get that desire. And there is an understandable fear of change to something that's different because what if it doesn't work out?
Yep.
But but this is the funny thing. Back to the subs, like the match they held, we try something new, and okay, here's all the good that we got out of this match, all this really awesome new things that we figured out. Okay, well, here's some things that didn't work as well as we wanted to. Okay, well, let's look at that, and how are we going to improve that for the next match? Okay, we never would have even gotten there if we sat back and said we're just going to keep it the way it is. Even the USPSA board of directors is going to have to deal with that. What do we do when Troy dies? When Jake Martins retires? When Rick Brotzel? I mean, yes, take the personality aspect away from it,
Yeah.
and just ask the question because I would guess if you're being fair and like just eminently fair, Troy does a lot of things behind the scenes that most people never see. Jake Martins does a lot of things behind the scenes that most people never see. It's only the public facing stuff that people are like, you suck at this or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but these guys, if you replace them, it's an observable thing that when you have a small company and people wearing multiple hats, if you have to replace that one person, you're hiring 2 to 3 people because that's how many jobs and people it takes to do what they're doing.
Or just the rate of them learning those jobs. Like you can't have one person learn all four. You have to literally have four people that learn those jobs as they go. And
Yeah.
and when you're in small organizations like that, a lot of people will protect those kind of things that they do and don't let you know on everything they do and how they handle it. So they're irreplaceable. Job security.
They
Anyways,
that does happen, but honestly, I don't think that's good. I don't think it's healthy for anybody. I think I that's why I firmly believe you're the single best thing you can ever do for your own career and for anybody. Like one of the things I talk a lot about in the company is I hate the idea of gatekeeping. There's this idea that, I had to go through all this trouble to get to where I'm at. And so I want everybody that comes behind me to have to go through that same amount of trouble. And I think that's a really terrible attitude. I don't think you should ever look at the world that way. I think your goal in life, whether it's for your children or for your company, is to pave that road as far ahead of you as you can so that the people coming behind you have an easier time to get to where you're at, so that the day that you decide you're done, they still have energy in the tank to make things better.
yep,
And if we do that, we're actually making something better. And that's
yep.
what we should be doing. We should be doing that with everything that we do in life.
All right, you wanna climb off your soapbox? We ready to end the show?
Fine.
Fine, jump, crowd dive, Jared, catch him. Anyways, thanks for downloading, listening, and subscribing. Do we have any more questions? Or are we good?
Do we have any more questions? Oh, let's see. I'd like to see Eric and Ben shoot the same match. Eric Griffell and Ben Steger shoot the same match.
Well,
That'd
that
be
won't
cool.
happen because it would be cool, but one of them's not allowed in the sport anymore. So,
Ben Steger, whether he decides to shoot or not is secondary. Ben Steger actually needs to be put back in USPSA.
yep,
And I would say, I mean, I say that knowing that there was a time when I didn't think so, but he absolutely needs to be put back in USPSA for sure. And I would say that Ben Steger in his prime was the most American Eric Raffel that ever existed, because he knew the math on how to win. And he was never flashy. He would go through and he would execute at a level that was unheard of. He wouldn't win all these stages, but he would win the match every single time because he was so good at that.
yep,
And when you look back on it and kind of think about it, you're like, Ben Steger he was a god among men in production.
yep. And and if we only had the clock to turn back and grab Enos or Latham out of their prime and stack them up with Graffel, that would be another thing too. But the funny thing is, their prime is nowhere near everyone else is standing on the shoulder of giants, right? Of how to go through and shoot matches and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that came over the past 20 years where people got to kind of get a head
Well,
start on.
well, hell yeah. I mean, like, look at all the young shooters today. Like everything that they have that you and I, when we first started, Tommy, we never had.
Yep.
I mean, like all the YouTube, all the great books and information and stuff like that.
Yep.
We didn't have any of that, and people just started doing it, and they're pushing that ball forward, and they're just making it a more inclusive place for the people to come into it. I think it's awesome.
Yep. They didn't actually, and there wasn't three or four guys in every club that could shoot at that kind of level. And
Hmm.
like if you had one guy in the state or whatever like that. But you can have national level guys who are just swapping rows in the top 16 constantly now.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
anyways, thanks for downloading, thanks for listening, thanks for subscribing, thanks for all that you guys do. We're happy to put on the show for you even late at night. And Jared's bobbling his head as I'm getting ready to say, for Robert Wyatt and Jared Stepp, I'm Tom Nelson, bidding you peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of a sea of life, called the PARAcast.
Good night, everybody.
Doot doot.
Actually, literally, good night, everybody.
Yeah, good night, people.